Welcome. This is the final episode of this round of Tune Into Your Body. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White, licensed naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, and educator. Today I'm going to talk to you about supporting your body through viral infections, colds, flus, other viruses. And so we won't talk about prevention today. That is a topic for another session. But today we're going to talk about how can you support your body through not feeling well when you have a virus. Here's the philosophical difference for me versus a lot of the rest of the country is that any symptom that happens when you're, quote, sick, in my mind, is not something that we should try to make go away, because I believe that your body is brilliant and that anything we can do to support what your body is trying to do is my focus and my goal when you're not feeling well. So let's talk about some of the symptoms that your body creates when you're not feeling well. That might be an increase in mucus. Well, why would that happen? And the reason I like to go into the whys is I want you to understand that the body is brilliant, and it's not just making symptoms, for no reason, or, all symptoms serve a purpose. So if you're making mucus, if you are mucousy, whether it's runny, whether it's thick and stagnant, if you're making any sort of mucus, the body does that for a couple of reasons. The first reason might be that your mucosal membranes, the skin on the inside of your sinuses and your throat and your respiratory tract, if it feels dry and vulnerable, dry and unprotected, your body's going to increase mucus production in order to coat and soothe dry, irritated mucus. So if you're dehydrated, if you have a lot of irritants around, if you're mouth breathing at night and your throat gets super dry, your body might, in its wisdom, create excess or extra, not really excess, but extra mucus in order to soothe and coat. So that's one reason you can make mucus. Another reason is that if there are foreign particles, waste particles, however you want to think about them, in your respiratory tract, your body, by making mucus, is escorting these waste particles out of your body. Better out than in is one of my favorite sayings. My daughter always jokes, and I hope it's a joke, that she's going to get it tattooed on her body, better out than in. Because if you have a stomach virus, throw up, you'll feel better. If you have a tummy ache, go sit on the toilet, see if you'll feel better. Better out than in. Mucus is the same way. So if you look at over-the-counter, cold and flu treatments or things you can buy over the counter, often they will have things like a decongestant. Now, that sounds great, right? Decongestant is undoing your congestion. It dries up mucus. Now, if we trust that the body has a plan and that it knows exactly what it's doing to protect and care for itself, and we dry up mucus, we just left our mucous membranes vulnerable and dry, and we lost that mechanism for our bodies to expel the waste that they were trying to expel. So rather than drying up the mucus and making it go away, here's some other options. One is to drink lots of warm broth, warm teas, because the warmth, not in addition to giving moisture, which helps us to be hydrated and less dry and vulnerable and less need for extra mucus. So the warmth helps. Also, the idea that you're hydrating helps. And if you add herbal teas with vitamin C, for example, that can be made, or of elderberry, and you're getting more antioxidant, antiviral properties from whatever you're drinking in the tea, it's like a double benefit. So thinning that mucus with hot beverages, either soups or teas, can really help to prevent the need for that decongestant. Remember, we don't need a decongestant. We need that mucus. It is serving a purpose. So in addition to the idea of mucus, so we want to thin it to make sure that it keeps flowing, right? The last thing we want is stagnation. And so when things stagnate, think about it. If you have thick mucus in your sinuses and it just kind of hangs out there, warm and thick and cozy, it is a breeding ground for whatever else, mold or things of that nature that would like to grow. So we don't want it to stagnate. Keeping it thin is important. And so you can thin it through the dietary realm in the nourish category of my 5 essentials with the broths and the teas. Another way to thin it might be to use a supplement. One common supplement that is a mucolytic, or something that helps to lyse or break up thick mucus, is N-acetylcysteine, also called NAC. And typically, NAC is used as for a handful of reasons, as anything is, but one of the reasons NAC can be used is because it does tend to thin mucus. It also has an affinity for the lungs, and so if someone has a lower respiratory mucus, NAC can be beautiful in supporting the lungs and thinning mucus. So that's all I think I want to say about the mucus aspect of colds and flus and respiratory viruses. Another concept regarding the mucus production, though, is when you're feeling dry and vulnerable and dry and unprotected, the mucus wants to kick in. So one way, in addition to hydration through broth and tea, another way to increase the likelihood that your mucosal membranes will feel protected, at least in the mouth and throat, is through taking in honey. There are excellent studies regarding honey and cough being even more protective than an over-the-counter cough syrup, especially for children. And so a teaspoon or so of raw honey really helps to coat and soothe the back of the throat as well as the rest of the throat. For those of you who haven't watched my YouTube video about how to make onion honey, this would be a perfect time to do that and to get some made and put into your fridge as we head into fall and winter in the northern hemisphere, singular. So onion honey has the benefit of the demulcent activity of the honey, which is that moisturizing kind of keeping the tissue moist and protected. And it also has the antioxidant activity of the onion. And so this combination, the onion is less pungent, the honey is not quite as sickly sweet. And so it's a nice balance of these two flavors as well as protective effects. So onion honey is a fabulous tool to use when you aren't feeling great, when your throat is dry and irritated and or the beginnings of the colds and flu symptoms. So from the nourish perspective in colds and flus, we talked about some thinning mucus and things like that, but let's talk about food in general. So you may have heard the old wives' tale, feed a cold, starve a fever. Now, if you are very much tuned in to your body's needs, your inner wisdom will guide you as to whether you need extra nourishment to fuel the immune response that is happening, or if you aren't hungry at all, it might be a sign that your body is taking all of its energy and putting it towards the immune response. It doesn't want to have to put energy towards digestion and absorption. So if you feel hungry, eat foods that you know nourish you, that are easy to digest, that you always feel really receptive to. And if you're not hungry, don't force yourself to eat. Your body might not want to be spending energy on digestion and absorption. It might want to simply mount the fever, use the immune response, use all its energy towards the immune response. And again, if you do eat things that you know work for you, that are very easy to digest. There are studies that talk about the fact that refined sugar and sugars in general have a lowering immune system action. And so this isn't the time, if you're feeling like you have a respiratory virus, this isn't the time to be eating refined sugars. That will not serve your body. Your body needs its resources and it needs its immune system functioning as high as it can so that it can take care of you and get better faster. So that is the nourish section with the hydration, with the food. Now, supplementation we talked about a little bit within the tea section, but NAC can be helpful, N-acetylcysteine as a mucolytic or something that helps to thin your mucus. Vitamin C, those are things that tend to support the immune function when you bring them on board. Now notice I'm not giving any doses. I am not your doctor. If you need doses, then you need an appointment with your own physician, whether that be me or someone else. Because just because supplements are natural, that does not mean they are safe for everyone. And your practitioner should be aware of your nutritional status and your family history and your medication status and your lab work and everything else that goes into all the decisions that we make about your health. So that's nourish. Feed a cold, starve a fever, follow your inner guidance if your body needs extra nourishment or if it needs to not spend energy and if it just needs to focus on its immune response. Hydration with warm fluids will help hydrate your tissues, and the warmth will help to thin mucus and encourage it to flow. Better out than in is the mantra here. And then in that first section in the food, we talked about the onion honey, antioxidant, demulcent to help soothe your tissues, help ease your cough. That's the nourish section as it relates to colds, flus, and viral infections, respiratory viruses particularly. So for those of you who had just joined us, welcome. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White, licensed naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, and educator. And this is Tune Into Your Body, my weekly webinar that focuses on the 5 essentials for you to be healthier every day. Nourish, move, choose, connect, and balance. And today we're taking the 5 essentials and we're applying them to how you can best support yourself in a natural way when you find yourself not feeling great from respiratory virus. Now, everything I'm recommending is about supporting your body to do what it knows that it needs to do. We don't want to suppress anything. We don't want to stop anything. We want to help support your system. So let's talk about move. So move within the respiratory virus section can be, again, something you really need to tune into. So when I talk about move, I talk about active and passive. And so active movement is just that. You go for a walk, you do some stretches. Having a cold or a flu is not the time you necessarily want to work at your hardest. Because remember, your body is mounting a response. It's taking its energy to do a very specific thing. If you ask for a lot of energy to do something else, chances are you're going to be sicker for longer because your body's going to take longer to try to do what it's doing because it was distracted. Sweating is a lovely way to help support your body to eliminate things that it's trying to eliminate. And so you can do this by, if it's summer, obviously walking and stretching will easily induce sweating. But again, we don't want to exercise too hard to take our energy away from what our body's trying to do. And in this case, hot baths, saunas might come in handy for helping to increase that movement of sweat. That is part of the passive section of move, where this is where I often talk about hydrotherapy, in that it's not the active movement of our muscles that creates movement, but it's the contrast of hot and cold water that increases flow from point A to point B. So a nice hot bath is hydrotherapy. It is a way to help increase the circulation of your body, raise your body temperature, and help support your body to eliminate wastes. And so in the move, we have gentle stretching, gentle walking, and hydrotherapy that can help us to increase elimination through sweating and increase circulation so that we don't have stagnation. I talked about the fact that mucus, when it stagnates, it can create more problems. So we don't want mucus to stagnate in our sinuses. Warming socks is an excellent way to increase the circulation of your body while you're sleeping. There's a warming sock YouTube video that I have created, so go search for that. You can head to my website and search for warming socks or hydrotherapy and see what blog posts come up for that as well. So we want to make sure that our body is not stagnating. And while we are resting, often we can stagnate. So the use of hydrotherapy allows us to rest and allows our circulation to continue to make sure that our body is seeing everything that it needs to see to mount a response and to take care of it. Colds and flus and respiratory viruses, how else you can support yourself through this would be the third essential in the Tune Into Your Body 5 Essentials, and that would be choose. Choose is where we will look at sleep and chemical exposure and your lifestyle habits. Again, as I've mentioned already today, when you are mounting a response to get some waste products out of your body, whether it's viral or some other reason that your body is trying to mount a fever or spew mucus, we want to make sure that we are allowing the body enough energy to be able to do that. And so in this realm, that's where sleep comes into play. The more sleep we have, the more we're giving our body the time to do the healing, the circulation, the immune balance, the mucus production, the expelling of anything that is needed to be expelled. Now, I'm going to skip the fourth connect and go right to balance right now. Balance is about our nervous system. And this plays a role in with sleep, because if we are stressed out in reward behavior, in threat, we are really focusing our energy and our circulation on our head and our muscles so that we can fight or run or scheme. And so the core functions, core being physiological as well as foundational, the core functions that happen in our abdomen are often kind of down-regulated because they're not the most important right now. Think about that. If you're about to be eaten by a tiger, do you need your immune system to work, or do you need to digest and absorb the meal you just ate? Probably not. So not only is sleep important, but also rest from a nervous system standpoint is important. We want to make sure that your body feels as close to safety as it can. When that portion of the parasympathetic nervous system is activated and your body feels as though it is in safety, it can really focus a lot more energy on those core foundational efforts: digestion, immune system, any reaction it needs to mount in the immune system. And so it's super important to not push through these symptoms and keep working. What is important is that you clear your calendar and that you take the time to connect with yourself, to connect with your body, the fourth essential, connect, and really allow your body to sleep when it needs to sleep, to find safety as often as it can, so that your body can mount an efficient response. Now, why do some people stay sick for 2 weeks and other people are done in 3 to 5 days? The 3 to 5 day people, their bodies were able to mount an efficient, effective response so that they do what they need to do and they move on. The people for whom it lasts 14 days, most likely they were not in safety. Their bodies didn't feel as though they had the energy or the resources to focus on what the body was trying to do, clear the waste products. They may not have slept enough. They may have eaten things that weakened their immune systems that didn't help the cause. They may have continued to be dehydrated and didn't allow their mucus production to be fully effective and clearing. Now, this doesn't mean they also could simply have a less vital system and not the privilege to be able to clear their schedule and go to bed for 3 days, right? So there's no blame here. This is just a descriptor of circumstances. And if at all possible, I'm suggesting that you do all that you can to be towards the end of the 3 to 5 days, as opposed to being on the end of the 14 days. We all have different levels of privileges and different power to control our lives. I'm incredibly blessed that if I get sick, I clear my schedule. I tell my patients that I'm unavailable. There are other doctors who can see them if they need us. I can have someone else teach my class, or I can teach my class remotely, and I can lay in bed for 3 days or 4 days and take care of myself and do what I need to do. But that is not the case for many people. So do what you can, do what you have the power for, and maybe you'll be somewhere in the middle of the response. So we've talked about how you can best support yourself in the process of having symptoms regarding some sort of respiratory virus, colds, flus, whatever virus it may be. We're working with the body. We're not working against the body. We're not trying to dry up mucus or stop something from happening. We're trying to make the body be able to do what it's trying to do anyway. We're trying to make it more effective. We're making sure that it has the resources it needs in hydration, in energy, in nervous system state. And we can all do what we can do, right? If we have young toddlers we're trying to take care of, then it's harder to get a great solid night's sleep. Maybe resources can come in, family members and such, to help give you a break. Those are the things that I'd like to say about supporting yourself with any respiratory viral symptoms. Now, all of these are fairly generic. They apply to everyone. And why do I do that? Because I'm not your doctor. If you'd like me to be your doctor, I can absolutely tailor this and more to help support you in prevention, which is what we didn't talk about today, and in support to help your symptoms be as effective and as efficient as possible so that you get better as quick as you can. And your body will then learn from that response, remember how to mount an effective, efficient response, and hopefully down the road, your viral responses will be even more efficient than they've ever been. I'd love to help support you in that process. Reach out and schedule a discovery call today if you have not yet done so. Take care, everyone. Take good care. It's important, you matter, and you do have the power to control what happens to you, your health, and your life. Take good care.